Welcome to the 44th episode of the Bloomers podcast. My name is Amr. This channel is based on mental health, life. It's a podcast where I talk about things in life with people or by myself. Today I'm going to be talking about relationship advice. Every fall I do like a relationship advice video. So this is this fall's version. And last fall that video was very successful. And a lot of people enjoyed that. So if you'd like to check it out, I'll leave a link in the description. It's been a while since I've done a solo video, especially on a specific topic. But yeah, I hope everyone is doing well. I want to talk about rejection and heartbreak and revenge, because those are topics that are kind of like the negative side of relationships that I never really talk about. So why not do it now? But yeah, I don't know. So rejection, right? It's kind of a weird thing. We have a fear of rejection, guys and girls, going into relationships. And I looked it up online actually, and it's like, because we have humans have a fear of uncertainty and change, and humans want to be accepted socially. So if you're rejected, it's like you're kind of in that outside category of people who like are not accepted or whatever. Some stupid stuff like that we think, which is fine, right? Like, it's okay. But I think that fear of rejection is really stupid. And I only say that because I think that, and I made a video about this before last year. It was like, shoot your shot and don't care. And I stand by that. You know, if you are truly attracted to somebody and you want to start a relationship with them, just go ahead. Just go start. Try. What do you have to lose? Like, all you have to lose is time and a little bit of pride. And who the hell cares, man? It's so dumb. And a lot of people think that if you're rejected a lot, then you're like not lovable, or you're not available, or you're not someone who can be in a relationship. And that's complete BS. And yes, if you were rejected a lot, that probably does say something about you. If you're rejected by a lot of people, it probably says that there's something wrong with you. But take that little ego hit, take that hit of your ego and use it to improve. Like, there's something about you that you need to change. And that might not always be the case, but if you're rejected by a lot of people, maybe it's the case, consider it. And, you might have to groom yourself better. You might have to dress better. You might have to have a bit more charisma, have a bit more confidence. You don't have to perceive these things as a lot of the time, like in life, we just, and this is even something that I still struggle with to this day, is like seeing other people as not the problem, seeing myself as the problem, or seeing my thoughts as the problem. It's really hard because we have strong biases towards ourselves, as humans. But you just gotta sometimes look at it, especially if you're a guy, because the dynamic of approaching someone in a relationship is like, the guy does it mostly, right? Most of the time. From what I've heard and from what I've seen with my two eyes, guys are doing most of the approaching, because it's, as a girl, imagine, for guys who are watching, if you're a girl, imagine approaching a guy, right? Like, isn't that kind of scary? I can imagine it'd be scary. And as a guy, it's like you kind of have that responsibility now to to do the approaching. And I don't know, I feel like a lot of guys, if you aren't rejected, your ego will build up. And then it'll build up so high to the point where if you are rejected, your ego will be severely offended and you'll come crumbling down. And that's why, and I'm literally talking from experience there. And because when I was a kid, every single girl that I liked in like junior high, let's say, they liked me back. and that naturally had an effect on my ego. It was like, wow, I'm a beast, right? But as I grew older, that started to not be the case, and that's because people grow up, and because what is liking someone? What even is that when you're a kid? Like, what does it really mean? It just means, hey, I think you look good, and you think I look good, and we like each other. But as you grow up, things become more complex, and there's different layers to personality that you actually have to consider. So that had an effect on me, actually. I started to realize that, this isn't junior high anymore. And the male ego, I'm telling you right now, the male ego, when it's immature, is very, very deceptive to men. And it's like, it'll tell you the craziest stories. It'll make the weirdest connections. And yeah, it's something that rejection puts you in your place, and it helps you out. But I asked you guys on my Instagram story. I did a poll, and we had 19 responders. You know what I mean? So I asked if you are in a relationship, or if you were, how did it first start? How did it begin? Was it through online, or were you approached in person? So 58% of people said in person, and 42% said online, which is great. I think that's awesome. More people were approached in person than online, which I think is how it should be. If you're approaching someone for a relationship, you should do it in person, the old-fashioned way. I think that's more natural, and it's more romantic in a sense. And it's like, online, to me, especially if you haven't met the person first in person, it comes off more unnatural, and I think it has a lower success rate. Like, if we take these two numbers, 58% in person and 42% online, and apply it shows that more relationships happen in person. Therefore, we can say in-person relationships are more successful, which is flawed. I know that's flawed, but let's just say that's the case. Then in-person seems to be the more successful way. I think that's the best way to do it. And it's more human. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, I'm kind of against social media and stuff in general. But if you're a guy trying to approach a girl, or if you're a girl trying to approach, a guy or whatever, I have a little tip list for you. So first of all, be groomed. All right. If you're a guy, trim your beard, get rid of your facial hair, put on some cologne, wear some nice clothes, and yeah, just look good and feel good. Second, be confident. In the situation, what do you have to lose? The only thing you have to lose is time, and the other thing is a little bit of pride. That's it. Third, be honest and be straightforward. Don't beat around the bush. You have a limited amount of time to make a first impression. Just make it quick, be honest, say how you feel. Hey, I think you're attractive. Hey, we should do XYZ. That's it, right? And fourth, be accepting. Learn to take no for an answer. And if you receive yes as an answer, move forward and accept that response. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's just the best way to do it. You don't have to be so offended or hateful of this person if they say no. I mean, if they say no, respect it and just move on. It's just that simple. And the big thing I want to reinforce in this episode is that the acceptance of a negative experience is always a positive experience. That's a quote from Mark Manson from The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. It's a great book, and that is one of the quotes that has stuck with me the most, is that accepting your negative experiences is always a positive experience. But sometimes trying to pursue positive experiences all the time can be a negative experience. You might have to replay that and listen to it again, because it is a bit confusing. But yeah, just remember, shoot your shot. Don't care about rejection, and don't ever live with the question of what if. You don't want to do that. Just because you never know what you're missing out on. You might as well find out, and you might as well take the little ego hit, and you might as well take the little bit of pride that gets hurt. Who cares, man? Like in 2 weeks, you won't even care. Now, I also asked you guys on Instagram about heartbreak. So I asked, have you ever experienced what you consider to be heartbreak? And this is surprising, okay? Out of 27 votes, 81% said yes, and a 19% said no. So that's a 22-5 split. That's pretty high. So if we extrapolate that to the world population, then 81% of people in the world have experienced heartbreak, which, man, that's crazy. But nah, we're not gonna have flawed statistics here. This demographic is mostly people between the ages of 16 to 25. So we got to keep that in mind, that this is a young population of people, men and women in this. But that's crazy, man. I was not expecting that. 22-5. Damn. But I asked as a follow-up to that, for people who said yes, like, what were your thoughts about it? What was your final verdict? So I'll read some of those out right now. So one person said, I felt upset and angry about it at first, but in the end learned that there's no point in harboring negative feelings towards the situation or the person. So now I only view it as a good thing that I can learn and grow from. That's fire. That's what I also strongly agree with. Another person said, it's something to look back on fondly, but not get too emotionally caught on what could have been. Also, that I should start effing men. That was pretty funny. But yeah, no, don't get too caught on to what could have been or whatever. Who the hell cares? Another person said, felt like shit, which, yeah, that's probably your immediate response. Another person said, a lot of reflection, learning to not hate and reflecting on what I've learned. Yeah. Another person said, you don't start from scratch, you start from experience. Yes, thank you. That's fire. What else do we have? Another person said, honestly, getting over it sometimes takes time and you just have to focus on yourself and wait it out. I would disagree with the waiting out part, because you actually got to put in some effort. But yeah, it does take time to focus on yourself and whatever. Another person said, it generated mistrust, general sadness, and not being able to focus, but it was a learning opportunity. Which, yeah, that's exactly. And before I forget, there are two. So I learned this in class, and there was this group of people who came in to present some information to us about like self-help, which immediately got my focus because this is what I like. And it's like a student wellness thing at school. So they were saying, there's two types of things you do when you take a break. You either do a self-loathing activity or a self-care activity. So self-loathing, I think that's the word. It was like, playing video games, or like drinking like a smoothie or like a milkshake, eating junk food. And then self-care is like going on a walk with a friend, going on a walk alone, doing meditation, yoga, lifting weights. So when you're recovering from heartbreak, you got to do more self-care activities than self-loathing, because self-loathing is pleasure-based activity. So and pleasure is a bad value to base your like life experiences on, because it's something that's not like, what's the word? It's just not like, I don't know how to say it, but it's just not like a let's say like a trustworthy value, right? Like it's something that just comes and goes, and it's based on like, okay, drinking alcohol or like smoking your problems away. Like that's not proactive. Yes, there we go. It's not proactive. It's very reactive, and it's very it's like a waste of time. But with self-care activities like talking about your feelings or going on a walk or exercising, you are helping your body and your mind in the long run, instead of just like a pleasure-based activity that's just short-term, pleasure, and it just kind of goes away. Whereas these other activities, like especially talking, is something that really helps because I talk about this all the time. Keep stuff in here, it will screw you up. You're the only person who knows about it. One of the only ways you can get stuff out of your mind is by using your mouth or using your hand to write and using your mouth to speak. Like, you need to tap into that. So yeah, that's my advice. Do not self-loathe too much. You can, but because it's fun, but it's not too much. And I think we all know this. And I want to talk about the cause of heartbreak. So in my opinion, it's a lot of the time the person whose heart is broken in a relationship is like the good-natured person, and the bad-natured person is the one who does the breaking. And that's not always the case, but this is just generally, okay? I know speaking in general terms is often inaccurate, but this is just what I'm thinking, all right? And abusive relationships, all right, often have this bad-natured person and this good-natured person. And a lot of the premise of abusive relationships is one person is in pain, all right? Some sort of emotional pain that's deep trauma, emotional trauma from some experience. And then there's another person who's the savior. And it's like a savior complex where it's like the savior is trying to solve and fix this other person, the abuser. And that's the dynamic of the relationship. And I'm not saying this is all abusive relationships. I'm saying this is one common type that I've seen. And that is terrible. And if you have ever been in that position, I'm sorry, but it was probably a good thing for you in the end. But you can understand why that's a problem, right? Like the whole relationship is based on this one person, this egotistical person who's basically using, either unintentionally or intentionally using, this savior person to help fix their problems. But in relationships, and this is something I talked about in my last relationship advice video, was the solving of problems needs to be an individual thing. Time apart and boundaries are really important in relationships in this sense, where you'll solve your own problems and I'll support you so much through whatever it is that you're going through, but you yourself are going to solve those problems unless I'm involved in them, unless it's a problem between me and you, right? So that is something that I think I've observed and I think is very true, and I've heard people say this, that is a problem in abusive relationships. And abusive relationships, man, like when you're in one, there's something called the halo effect, which is where the longer you know a person for, just that fact is what makes you more attracted to them and more attached to them. And that is something that's so real. Like, and especially for a guy, I can speak to this, is you will lie so much about another girl or a girl to yourself just so you kind of stay with her or whatever, right? Like that's something, I don't know if all guys have experienced that, but that's me. I've definitely lied to myself about some girls and told myself some things that weren't true just for the sake of being attached to them or whatever, which is so dumb. But yeah, I think a lot of the time it's a good person who genuinely wants a relationship, and they think that the whole world is or people were raised the same way they were, and they think this will be a good, this person's just like me or whatever. And then in the end, it's the complete opposite. And it's like, damn, like, what the hell just happened? I actually Googled the stages of heartbreak, and it's really interesting. So I don't know what the source was, but this is a trust me bro moment. No, I'm kidding. But we got number 1, obsession for answers. The first stage. Second stage, denial. Third, sorrow. Fourth, relapse. So like going back to them. 5, anger. 6, acceptance. And 7, hopefulness. So I'll say it again. The acceptance of a negative experience is always a positive experience. You're going to go through all this crap, these terrible things. These are terrible, at face value, they're terrible. But in the long run, when they compound on each other and you actually take your lesson out from it, it's a good thing. You can see how at the end, it's like an upwards trend. You get acceptance and acceptance and hopefulness at the end, and denial, sorrow, relapse, anger, all following up to it. And that's all you got to do, man. It's just, you got to learn, and then you got to apply whatever lessons you learned, because whatever you just experienced will now tell you what you want in your future partner. So let's say, I'm not sure if this is true, but it is for most people, I think. Let's say breakups cause heartbreak. What is the most common cause of breakups? In my opinion, it's failure to set expectations at the start of a relationship, and then that results in the resurfacing of trauma or old experiences that were not brought up, and that is a pain transfer. So, when you're starting any relationship, you should first talk with your partner about what the expectations are, what's the boundaries here, like what is not allowed, what is allowed, and what past experiences have you had. what's your history, get everything out on the table. Make sure you're both fully aware of each other, and this is after you know the person for a little bit. This is not a first date type thing, right? And I think that way you can avoid this resurfacing of pain and emotional conflict and fighting, and which those things, fighting and stuff, that stuff is actually a good thing. But I'm just saying, you need to clarify what is what and what is not. Sorry. You need to clarify like what is out of bounds and what's within bounds, and how can this relationship benefit both of us, and you'll be good. I'm not saying that that breakup will never happen, because you always need to be open to the idea of a relationship failing. But if you really like the person, do that. Just settle all on the table and see where it goes. Try to be as clear as much as you can. And if you're hurting, maybe you need that. We always pain is negatively perceived, obviously, right? No one wants to experience pain, but it's such a good ultimate feeling to experience it and to just learn from it. Because you're not gonna, bro, like these people who've never been in a relationship before, like when you actually want to finally like settle with a person and you haven't ever tried before, it's like, it's way harder, and you're probably going to be pretty unlucky. So you either start early and you finish early, or you start late and you finish late. That's the way I see it. And again, no matter what happens, remember, the acceptance of a negative experience is always a positive experience. No way you accept a negative experience and it's a bad thing. No way. It's always a good thing. Acceptance is so peaceful, and it's so reassuring and it's so calming and it's a great feeling, but it takes time. And I want to talk about this now. This is really interesting. So I was listening to podcasts, right? And a poet named Amir Suleiman wrote this poem. It's called Of Beauty and Breaking. There's a little snippet of it. It goes, "Who would want their heart broken? But now that mine has been split open, I wonder who would ever want their heart closed. Can you drink from the coconut without striking it? Can you smell the aloes wood without lighting it? So much sweetness is violent, so much beauty in breaking, until I smashed my heart into heart against harder rocks. Living is a labor, dying is an art." Now, I'm not trying to sound toxic when I say who wouldn't want their heart broken, but when your heart is closed, you don't see what you see when it's open and when it's broken. When it's broken open. It is ultimately such a good thing to have your heart broken. And I know how toxic that sounds, but I promise you, it's a good thing. You learn so much and you see the world from a whole different way. And I feel like some people who don't experience heartbreak, they won't really develop in the best way. It's been a great teacher that I feel like anyone who's had their heart broken can attest to that and tell you that yes, it is a very ultimately good thing, and it teaches you about life and it teaches you about people, and we know now how to deal with people better. And that's all life is, man. Everything's interpersonal in the world, without talking to other people, without interacting with other people, what is life? So yeah, it's a good thing. And that poem is just, man, that those lines, who would want their heart broken, but now that mine has been split open, I wonder who would want their heart closed. When I first heard that poem, I was just like, man, this is... And I'm not even a huge poetry fan. I'm like, I don't really care about poetry. But this was just amazing, man. This guy is amazing. This poem is amazing. I want to talk about revenge and the idea of like the whole revenge cycle. I think we all know that revenge is stupid. In all these stories, like I finished playing Spider-Man 2. Great game, by the way. It's amazing story. I finished all my midterms and then I played this game in one weekend. I finished the entire story because I spent the last 2 weeks before it studying so hard every day. So I needed to give myself a little break. And in all Spider-Man stories and stuff, right? It's like at one point the Spider-Man is dealing with like getting revenge. And in every single one of them, it's like revenge is bad. And there's a reason for that, man. Like these stories don't just take them for what they are, like at face value. They're actually all stories, no matter how stupid or simple, except like, I don't know, Caillou, like what are we going to learn from that? But like, but these movies and stories that, are made for adults or even ones that are made for kids, they have lessons in them. And it's like, yes, you are being entertained. And yes, look at the action and look at this. But the lessons, man, they're nice. And a reoccurring lesson in a bunch of these things is don't take revenge because it's like, it doesn't really do anything. Like what does it really change? Doing bad things to people who have done bad things in this sense, in the sense of relationships, what are you achieving? What are you doing? Like, it's not like you're really changing much. You're just making things worse for someone else. You're stooping to someone else's level. You're not helping yourself. So, yeah, the most cliche thing ever, but the best revenge is to improve yourself and show yourself that you're not on the same level as them. You're better. And don't take that too personally. Don't internalize that too much. You're better. You're not going to go to their level, so you're better. And don't ever do what the hell is this, man? This is some new trend crap I've seen. Like getting in a relationship after you just finished your relationship. I don't really know people who have done this, but I've seen like popular people do it. Like, I don't want to name drop even if it's a celebrity. I don't care. I don't want to name drop her, but it's just crazy, man. Like, don't get in a relationship just for the sake of getting back at someone. Like, if you experience a breakup, take that recovery period and recover, if it even meant something to you, you know? And being the bigger person is such a good thing. Like, if you've ever argued with someone and they start flipping out, I'm pretty sure all of us have experienced this at some point in our lives, where the one person just like goes crazy. If you just sit there and you kind of just like talk like in a calm manner while they're like flipping out, they look so stupid. And it's one of the best things you can do is just practice patience and being calm and being mature, especially in this sense, when you're talking with your partner or your ex-partner or whatever. Don't be reactive. Just be calm and focused, because ultimately you will feel better when you do that. When you flip out and you say hurtful things and you be rude and you look back at it, you'll probably feel some regret. But when you act calm and stuff and you be like a good person, sounds so stupid, but you will ultimately feel good, and you'll be the bigger person, man. It's just, that is cliche. I know this ending is so cliche, but I don't know. I feel like it's so important. And remember, the acceptance of a negative experience is always a positive experience. Hopefully I didn't say that phrase wrong and mix up positive and negative. But yeah, that's it. That's what I wanted to talk about. I was planning this episode for months, and what I do is I write like a little big script sometimes, and then I put little key points on my phone. So I wrote that like big script in June. So it was actually 4 months ago right now when I wrote that script. And then I put all the points on my phone today, and yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something. I like to share my thoughts on things, and I was holding this one in for a fat minute. So yeah, I hope it helped in some capacity. And if you are currently going through heartbreak or a breakup or something, then I gotta tell you, man, I'm pretty sure you will have learned something helpful from this video, because you know, we've all been there, or most of us have been there. According to my poll, 81% of us have been there, but no, I'm kidding. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.